This song's called Had a Dad, and the lyrics are actually about God and religion. Had a dad. But the drum beat is real bouncy, kind of positive and happy, and real consistent with the bass line. So the bass line and the drum part are real consistent with each other, and we have a lot of interaction. Let me show you the beat. This is called Had a Dad. So we just heard Had a Dad, and like I said, it's got a displaced snare drum with kind of a catch-up at the end of the snare. Now let's do the actual cadence of the song, of the beat, on the snare drum, just alone. So it's got like somewhat of a bounce to it, even just in the cadence. Now let's try the snare with the bass drum. Boom, do da da boom, do bop da da boom, do bop da boom, do bop da da. Remember the bass line. Do 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 do. I try to capture just a piece of those notes and play with them instead of imitating the whole line. So let's try the beat with the hat, kick and snare. Kind of a lower tempo and a slower tempo and a lower volume. Now we're opening the hat on 2 and 4. That really helps the beat kind of have this breathing effect and really gives it the peak and the valley. And then of course the snare doing the catch-up gives it that hump. So there's a lot going on there, but it's pretty simple once you get it together. It's a real effective, kind of a train rolling sound. Now that is the verse, and I also use that theme when I play the chorus, going to the ride cymbal and throwing in a couple toms. Now when we get to the bridge is where I go straight to the tom-tom, and I really kind of stay away from any kind of normal rock pattern, and I go for a tribal pattern. Here's the rhythm on the snare. That's the kick. Here's it with the toms. Boot boom to boom to do 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 boom to boot boom to boom boom to. Now, when you get that, you realize that the kick pattern is real simple, and it's got to really be led with the hands and the tom-toms. The kick is kind of just implying the downbeat, but the toms are always really what's the theme. So once you get that rudiment together, or the cadence, between the kick and the snare and the hat for the verse, and then over to the toms for the bridge. Now, what I like to do on the snare part is kind of play catch-up. Boom, do, 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 do. That little and one with the snare really anticipates the ball rolling. It's almost like an egg rolling down a hill. Vroom, vroom, vroom. So, you know, it still goes down the hill. It just has a hump to it. And so the bass line, very consistent and very somewhat busy. So I wanted to get polyrhythmic and I would say African, almost tribal, but using the kick, snare, and hat and staying away from the toms. And then for the bridge, I do go to the toms and kind of open it up. We'll get to that in a moment. So this is the verse of Hadadad. And like I say, it's kind of a catch-up with the snare. And it's almost got a second line New Orleans feel if you just did it on the snare drum. But of course, I'm using the whole kit. So like I say, it's got a real hump to it, and the catch-up on the snare really gives it the good feel. And when the bass is that busy, you know, sometimes the drummer's first instinct is to get real simple. But it kind of stops the roll. So for me to find the roll is how I came up with that drum beat. And imitating the bass line, how I interpret the bass line is going to be different than how you do it. But when I hear a bass line or a guitar part, I try to find the moments that kind of reflect a good rhythm and pick those moments out and play to them. You know, as a rock drummer, there's something great about keeping a steady beat. But if you think about jazz drummers, they're very reactionary to each other. They react to what happens. So I try to take that rock formula, good rock solid beat, and then be, in jazz theory, be reactionary to what's happening around me and react to moments while keeping that rock steady pocket going.